Hello everyone and welcome back on my channel. Today we are going to tackle the subject of plein air painting and how to get into it using only cheerful tools. Let's be honest, art supplies are really expensive and easels make up a big part of the budget, of course, so today I'm going to share my experience with you and how I got to do it on a really small budget. There are a lot of reasons for which you might not want to invest right away at a very high quality, very expensive easel, like say a Strata for instance. Maybe you're a student and your budget won't allow such an investment right away. Maybe you are doing art as a hobby and you wouldn't get that much use out of it. Maybe you're not that much into plein air painting, or maybe you're just considering that it might be something that might interest you, but you're not quite ready as of right away to jump into that, so you would like to explore your options, how to try it out without having to break the bank. I always worked and lived in a very big city, so the only way that I would have get into plein air painting would be urban landscapes. And while I understand the appeal of the genre, is simply not something that I identify myself that much with, so it never came up for me actually. I was much more used to painting indoors, be it still life or be it painting from photographs. Things changed a bit around lockdown for me, and I don't know how it was exactly managed in other countries, but when it was announced in France, what happened was that we had 24, maybe 48 hours, don't quote me on that, to decide where we would stay during the lockdown. And me, I was working in Paris at that time. My husband was working in a smaller town in central France. So we decided, in order to not spend the whole time, and nobody knew at that moment how long it would really be apart, so we decided to both stay in the smaller town. And that is when the restrictions were loosened a bit further down the road, and we had maybe a 30-kilometer radius to do some workout or to go on a dog walk or something like that, that I discovered a local forest nearby the town where my husband was working, that I first got into thinking that maybe at some point it would be nice to have an easel to carry around, to do some woodland painting, or do some studies for, I don't know, flowers, ferns, things like that, that I really appreciate painting. But then again, I didn't have a driver's license and still don't have one. So it wouldn't be very practical for me, because I would basically depend on my husband to drop me off at the forest and either go, walk around the forest on himself and then come back, pick me up and drive back, or just drop me there, go back to the city and then come pick me up sometime later on. I mean, it wasn't practical, so I let it slide, and wasn't an issue anymore. Then again, as some of you might already know, I'm going rather frequently to the UK on vacation, especially Scotland. That's where most of my paintings come from, let's say, or the inspirations for my painting come from. But time-wise, it didn't quite fit, because we were mostly doing a road trip with my husband, and actually the planning for the trip and the whole schedule was so crammed up with things to do and things to see that it didn't leave much space for an extensive, stay at one place and take the time to paint it and so on. We actually rather had to cross things off our schedule because we didn't arrive there in time, or we spent, more time than initially anticipated in one place, so it wasn't very practical again to get into the whole painting process whilst on vacation. Until last year, where we planned for over a 2-week stay in Scotland, and that's when we really had more time to do everything we wanted. And I actually picked several spots where I was like, okay, it would really be a good idea to take the time and set up camp there, you know, and take the time to paint it. But at that point we already spent like several thousand euros on the trip itself, as well as, you know, gear that we absolutely wanted to bring with us, like a new lens for taking photographs, another tripod, batteries, memory cards, like this whole stuff, because we absolutely wanted to do a photo album after we came back and things like that. So it didn't leave me with much budget, you know, to get into really pricey, high quality easel. But also there was the problem of mobility, because the way this trip was set up is that we would basically do a lot of hiking, and, you know, would have the backpacks with water, with food, maybe other clothes that we had to change into if the weather worsened or things like that. So I would need something that was fairly cheap and fairly lightweight. And I'm sure you're all aware that this doesn't really exist as an option on the market. I mean, mostly you have like easels that are very sturdy, made of wood, that are really resistant and everything, high quality, but you would have to pay several hundred euros to have that. And there is the Strata one that is very sturdy, but also very lightweight. But I mean, it is a completely other price range at that point, and I simply wasn't able to do that for myself at that trip. So I had to come up with another idea how to still be able to do that and try this out at this trip. And this is what I came up with. So I went on Amazon, and what I saw was, this is what they call a pochade. So it is like a tabletop easel that really is quite lightweight, I must say, although made of wood. But as it doesn't have the legs underneath and things like that, it only weighs like 1.5 kilograms, so around 3 pounds, I think that would make. And it only cost me 35 euros at that point. So what I did to make this work is very simple, and you nearly don't need any gear at all to do it. I just glued a tripod plate onto the bottom. And as you can see, it worked out very well for me insofar that I can completely hold the whole thing by the plate and it won't come off. And it wasn't even really expensive glue or anything, it's just stupid super glue that did the job very well. So let me show you how this whole little system here works out. So basically what you have is a little shelf here where you can put your canvas. You unlock the box on the side like so in order to pull up the stand, and it can go as far as this up, but there are 3 positions actually that you can choose from, like this, and this is as flat as this will go. Next, you unlock another joint thing here in order to pull out a little drawer where all your paint, your brushes, palette knives and things like that go. As you can see, it is also so lightweight because it is very thin. So you will have to choose from the paint tubes that you have. For instance, in my case, the tubes that I generally use wouldn't go in. Maybe it would work if they were more used up, I don't know. I have a doubt though, because the diameter would still be the same, I gather. No, I don't think it would work. So you would have to either purchase some smaller tubes, or, you know, maybe if you have some like me, you can use those. So these are 20 milliliter Le Bourgeois that I had. They go in without any problem at all, so I can put it in and then slide it in without any problems, resistance or anything else. Then I have some even smaller ones. How much are these? 10 milliliters. They're really, really tiny, that go into there. So this is a bit of a disadvantage, of course, that we would have to take into account when choosing the art supplies that you would take with you. The same goes for brushes. So obviously the bigger ones that I own, like this one, will not fit into it. So doesn't lack much space, but still like 1 or 2 centimeters that are lacking to be able to fit it in. But I must say it was not much of a problem for me, because I have quite a lot of brushes that are fairly small or medium sized, like this one. So this I can fit into and still have some space left, as you can see. So not a problem at all. Width-wise, how many can you fit in? Let's say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Will we be able to do that? Because you can work it both ways. So now I have around 10 brushes into it. And, well, do I have to wiggle it a bit? Maybe. Wait. I know I can make it work. Yes, there you go. So you have 10 brushes in the box without a problem, and you still have all the space left for your paint tubes. So no problem at all. A palette knife also fits in really nicely. Maybe several. I only brought along the one. What else? You would need turpentine, things like that. So another point to be aware of course, because this is such a thin pochade, a small container like this wouldn't fit into it. You see, it is a bit thicker than the pochade. So you would still have to bring, like, I don't know, a plastic bag. That's what I did in order to put the container in. But it was not as much an imposition to me, honestly. You can make it work without it being too limiting. Now, as to other materials that I brought along, what I did is that I took this like cardboard palette with me. So there are actually maybe 10 pallets or something like that in total, that are stuck together at the top like that. So you can detach them once used and throw them away. It's not ideal, I know, but that way you won't have to worry about drying times and transportation and things like that, as I had to put everything into the car. And by the way, it was a rental, so I really didn't want to get it dirty or anything and get any oil paint on it. This was the best I could come up with. Also, it was exactly the right size in this case, because I could just put it on top of the pochade, fold back the little shelf here, you know, it would fit really snugly against it. It holds it quite well. It's a space saver, so this was really practical for me. And finally, when it comes to canvases, so The thing is, when we went to Scotland last year, we traveled with our dog. So for one, we had to bring along dog food, but also like our luggage with 2 weeks worth of clothes and different stuff that we had to bring along. So I had to be smart about what I bring with me and what not. So in the end, I decided to not bring along any canvases, but when in Edinburgh, I stopped at an art supply shop and I got these. I wasn't even aware that those art boards existed. As I already stated, I wasn't into plein air painting before doing this experience, so I mostly use special paper that you can use oil paint on, but I didn't know that those thicker cardboard in this format existed, because it's really great for traveling. Here you can see it's quite thick and sturdy, so that's very good. It's not heavy at all, so it doesn't take up much space, and it was the perfect size to put on the pochade. So once again, I'll pull everything up. And it's not that wobbly actually, you know. The cardboard is sufficiently thick and heavy, let's say, for this purpose, that it wouldn't be blown away by the wind, that it doesn't budge a lot, so I didn't even have any clips to secure it, and you know, it did the job. So in order to set everything up, all you have to do is take your tripod, loosen the screw on the plate, then slip the plate that is attached to the back of the easel onto the platform here, there you go, and then screw it back on, and that's that. That's literally all you have to do. My tripod, for instance, has this bull head that enables you to turn it around and fix it at any angle that you see fit. That would help your composition. Then you only have to screw it back on, and there you go. This is literally all you have to do, and there you have your setup with your easel for 35 euros. However, it is very important to me to draw your attention to some difficulties that you might face when choosing this setup. You must see that this is how you can work around a problem, how you can work on a budget, how you can try out plein air painting without breaking the bank, but it is not an ideal solution, and you absolutely have to keep it in mind that this DIY project that I'm about to present to you has, of course, its own disadvantages. It is cheap and cheerful. It will give you the opportunity to try out plein air painting without committing to a big investment into a very expensive easel, but you will have to adapt yourself. So in no way would this be a better setup than a high quality expensive easel. To illustrate my point, I will pull up some B-roll that I had from one of the locations in Scotland where I decided to set the whole thing up and to paint. The location was spectacular, but the weather conditions that I had were not ideal. There was quite a lot of wind going on, It was not catastrophic for me. I mean, it didn't prevent me from painting this scene. But you have to be prepared that there will be challenges that you would otherwise not face. Another thing is that this whole setup doesn't really allow to fix an umbrella, for instance, somewhere at some point. So it would, of course, make it rather more difficult to paint in rainy conditions. So please keep this all in mind when taking your decision on the whole setup, all right? I want you to be aware of all that. So this is not a perfect solution, but in the end, this is what it is all about. It's about you not being limited by your budget or by your gear. This setup would allow you to still either experiment with plein air if you're not yet sure if you're into that. It would allow you to still do it if you don't have the budget to invest into a high quality easel. So the point of this being liberating you and your skills and helping you not having to hold off on this part up until you would have the budget or, you know, the opportunity of investing into something very expensive. And this is the whole point, actually, isn't it? About art, about not having that limitations, about being able to experiment with new ways of creating, with new locations, to be more flexible basically in what and where and how you can create your art. And at that very windy day at Quirang, would I wish for a strata easel that wouldn't budge at all? Yeah, I would have actually, but would I have preferred investing into it at that moment, meaning that I would have to cut 1, 2 or maybe 3 days in my stay to be able to afford it? Absolutely not. I rather preferred having these extra days on location, being able to see more locations, being able to paint more locations. And also it helped me realize that I very much enjoy plein air. So now that I'm in a more comfortable situation this year, for instance, if we're going back to Scotland at a point this year, I would consider buying a higher quality, more expensive easel that I could bring with me. But it is this setup that allowed me to test it out, to see what is working for me and what is not, which was very precious to me at that point. And that is the experience I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope very much that this little setup that I shared with you might make you more relaxed about gear and about certain limitations that we might encounter on the long way that are our careers in the art. And that gear should never be a limitation to what you can do. It should not prevent you from trying out any technique in any location. So there are always ways to make things work out and work around problems. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!